Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker. Coming up on the show, we've got girls and boys basketball to get to and something a little off the beaten path before we're through. I start with indoor track and field and three members of the Boonesboro Warriors, Nick Kidwell, Donovan McClellan, and Cameron Harper. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you guys here coming off the CMC championships this past Friday. And Nick, let me start with you because you're 4 for 4 so far this season, but every time I watch you, you never seem completely satisfied. What's going to put a smile on your face before this season's over?
Well, I got that school record and county record in my head, so I'm trying to get 2 or 3 more inches to get that, but I like that 6-0 number a lot. So if I get 60 feet, that'll be the icing on the cake.
What's it going to take to get there? I talked to Coach Lowry a little bit, and he said that you might be rushing just a little bit. Can you explain patience with throwing the shot?
Well, to throw the shot put far, you need torque and speed. So if you keep your shoulders back towards the wall, you have more torque to come through, and the shot put goes farther.
So that sounds pretty simple, but how do you make that happen then physically without getting in your own head too much about what you're doing?
Oh, well, you really got to drop your butt in the back and keep your shoulders up so you can turn your feet and just get your hips around.
And you haven't been doing this very long. How have you been so proficient at it in such a short period of time, do you think?
Well, practice a lot. We go at it a lot in practice. We throw a lot in practice, so it's repetition, and it's good done.
Well, Donovan, on each side of you, we have defending state champions, and you're a defending state champion in your own right in the 1600, but we haven't seen you run the 1600 a lot this year. Will you be running that at regionals and at states, or will you be concentrating more on the shorter distances as you've been faring so well in those throughout the course of the season?
For the indoor season, we're planning more on just like sticking with, because like you said, I've been having some success, so we're sticking with the shorter distances. But in outdoor, we're looking at the mile again.
And the 500, that really seems that it's sort of fallen into your wheelhouse. Where does all your speed come from? Because this isn't meant as a slight at all, but when I look at you, I'm not saying to myself, man, he looks like the speediest guy in the world. But you're able to gobble up ground and you're able to track these leaders down. Where do you think that comes from?
I guess a little bit of it is genetics, but also when I was a little kid, I used to have this little toy truck, and I used to push it around all over the place as fast as I could go. And so I was years of training right there.
Yeah, I've never heard a coach say to somebody, hey, you need to go get a toy truck in order to be able to run faster. But hey, I think now that we've let the cat out of the bag, there are going to be a lot of toy truck purchases by parents for kids at a younger age who are looking for aspiring sprinters down the line. The 800, tell me a little bit about that, because your time has just been diminishing and diminishing there. What's been working for you there that's enabled you to find greater speed as the season's gone along?
It's definitely our workouts that we're doing. Like, I've been doing the workouts faster and faster, but I think a big part of it is, especially with CMCs, we had excellent competition there. If I don't have someone to run with me, then I won't be able to go as fast.
Yeah, I had Andre Toure of South Hagerstown on earlier this season. He was just a phenomenal hurdler, and he talked about that. And I think some people might have thought, hey, he's being a little bit cocky, saying I'm not getting the competition that I need in order for me to elevate myself. But explain that a little bit.
Yeah, when you're out there and you're in front, there's no sense of a chase. Like, you can't exactly always see the clock, and there's no sense of a chase. Like, there's no one there that you can say, they're like, there's a target on their back, and you want to go after them.
Speaking of chasing, Cameron, you were being chased, and you were a little bit of the chaser, and man, it was right down to the wire, as it turned out on Friday in the 500. Can you tell me a little bit about how that went down from your point of view?
Well, with the 500, came in expecting to have the normal 4 people in a heat. found out that there was actually just going to be us 3, and the 2 girls I raced against were sisters. So that was a little bit of a mental thing where I was like, oh my gosh, they're already like buddy hanging out before the race. So I just try to keep that out of my mind, focus on having a good start like my coach is always telling me to do. And then, having her, the Ella Pentre something.
That's fine.
Sorry. Right there on my shoulder for the last 100 meters was a big motivator. So, yeah.
Yeah, I shot that race from a different point of view. So when you came to the line, I couldn't tell who had won the race. And how long did it take before you got the word that you had won by the slightest of margins?
It took about good 30, 45 minutes, maybe when they were running the 32.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a very close race. Having that dip, I took a little glance over at her, and I couldn't even tell for myself.
Now, 1:19.86 seconds. That's faster than you ran last year at States to win the 1A state title. So, how well does that bode for you going forward?
Hopefully, very well. There's no telling what'll happen 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now. But hopefully big things to come.
Yeah, what's the goal as we move forward here? Obviously, regionals are big, but states, February 19th is the date that's circled. And we were talking before we even went on the air about how the 1A landscape has changed now with 2A schools moving down. You got Lackey, Friendly, Catoctin all in the mix now. So what's the mindset going in as the 2-time defending state champions, if you can speak for the whole team as a senior?
Well, just to try and focus more on what we're going to do as, Boonesboro runners, as individuals, and, teams as a relay. But it's definitely something to kind of be worried about with all those schools moving down. There's different runners, there's different competition. But it's mostly just, trying to pull through and push ourselves to do our best.
And Donovan, I wanted to get back to you quickly on the relay victory in the 4x800. A school record there, and I mean shattering the school record by about 13 seconds. I mean, working together with those other guys in a relay, how gratifying is that to win something and to do it collectively like that?
It was pretty amazing. And after Henry did his first leg, the 3 of us all just looked at each other and we were just like, oh, this is going to go really well. Because his leg was excellent for him. And when it was each progressive leg of the race, we all got more and more excited and we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And it was awesome at the end.
And then Coach Cutsale's just yelling out, school record the whole time.
He's jumping up and down.
Yeah, there's no pressure on you whatsoever to come through at that point. Nick, you've been throwing a 12-pound shot put. I've got some things, a couple of things that I'd like you to throw, if you don't mind. So if you would stick around, we'll do this in just a little bit. I happened to see you at the Goretti St. James IPSL Boys Championship game, so we've got some girls basketball, some boys basketball to come.
Yep.
Might be interested in that, so stick around. But we're gonna go outside. We're gonna see how far Nick can throw the cantaloupe. That's coming up before the show's over. So stick around. Thanks for being here, guys. I'm back right after this. Bob Parsalitti and girls basketball in just a moment.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny. To shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
When you're sick or hurt and can't be seen by your regular doctor, you just want to feel better faster. Make a convenient appointment or simply walk into Meritus Urgent Care, where you can receive attention from our caring professionals, from sprains and strains to sore throats, earaches, and other ailments that are not life-threatening. Meritus Urgent Care has you covered with on-site labs and x-rays and much more. We're conveniently located on Pennsylvania Avenue in Hagerstown at the Sylvania Center. Feel better faster with Meritus Urgent Care.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue now with girls basketball. And Herald Mail insider Bob Parsalitti joins me for this segment. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Thanks for having me on.
Bob, you saw a game last Friday that had some intrigue to it in that Boonesboro came into the game against Smithsburg struggling a bit, and Smithsburg had been on the uprise, starting to get back to playing the way they wanted to because they've been getting some healthy bodies back in the lineup. But when all was said and done, Boonesboro able to win it by double figures at home over Smithsburg to sweep the season series. What was your takeaway from that one?
Well, they kind of hung in there, but I thought the big thing was that Boonesboro came out shooting. There are times when Boonesboro seems to struggle mightily to score points. And, right off the bat, Caitlin Cochran scores a 3 right out of the corner. Says she was looking for it too, and that's just from watching them, it looks like they're always looking not to shoot. They want to pass it off to somebody else, but this time everybody was stepping up and taking their shots. And between Cochran and Ellie Conley, they really set the tone with some early shooting. That made Smithsburg have to hang in there a little bit with the best they could. But they stayed ahead for far enough. And then when Smithsburg finally made that challenge, like in the beginning of the fourth quarter, that took the way.
It's amazing to me that Boonesboro wins that game by 13 points, and they went over 8 minutes at one juncture between field goals in that game. Smithsburg went on an 11-1 run at that point, and then starting the fourth quarter, before Boonesboro pulled away, a couple of baskets by Heather Barnes pulled Smithsburg within one possession, and it looked like Smithsburg was finally going to get over the hump, and then Boonesboro goes on the big run.
Well, two things came out of that. Number one was KK Rogers hits this three-pointer out of on the wing with the shot clock running out. It was a half good shot, half heave, just to get it up there on the glass, and it went in. And right after that, Coach Sam Conley called timeout. That gets them up back to about, it was probably 6 points in. It was 47-41, and then he went to the press. Chip Bakewell said that they panicked, and that's the game right there.
Lexi Henderson coming back for Smithsburg. She played somewhat sparingly, as you might suspect. 2 points early, but really nothing after that.
Yeah, I think, but just her being there, because she'll be somebody that can bring the ball up constantly. And you see it all over the place. Whenever you get new parts into a system, it takes a little bit of time for it to mesh out so everybody can figure out what they're going to do and how the timing falls and all that. With Boonesboro, talking to Sam Conley and Ellie Conley, they're talking about how they've been simplifying their practices and working on like spot shooting, trying to get into situations where they're practicing and then all of a sudden it's carrying over into games. And this could be the start of something better for Boonesboro too.
And Josie Wells scoring all 6 Boonesboro points in the third quarter of that game. Who would figure, again, that would be enough as they win it 63-50 over Smithsburg. Then on Sunday, IPSL championship game at St. James, St. Maria Goretti and the Lady Saints matching up for the second time this season. In this game, not as close as the first one. And again, Goretti continues to battle injuries. It's almost like they trade one player for another, going on the shelf for a while. Camille Zanaich now out. Ariel Jean-Jacques back in. But having said all of that, St. James is just on a roll right now. They're playing some terrific basketball. And even though they played the night before, they came out and they found a new way to attack St. Maria Goretti.
All of a sudden, Morgan Mosley makes this move to the middle, gets a layup, and all of a sudden everything started going inside. And it went inside both offensively and defensively, because on the defensive side, St. James made it really tough for Ariel Jean-Jacques to really get inside. I mean, the 1 or 2 plays that I videoed, she had to take it from the top of the key and work it down herself. She couldn't work it off the blocks like she usually does. She does a lot of things well that way, but she just didn't have the help that time. Then Kyria Stubbs had foul trouble early. And the other part was that, and this is something that Avery Carey admitted, that we have a little tough time because we don't have a second person to bring the ball up the floor anymore.
Yeah, it's very difficult without that ball handler, somebody who is going to facilitate the offense for them. But I thought, Mosley played a tremendous game start to finish. She was a very tough matchup for St. Maria Goretti in that game. And then early I thought Tessa Douglas, who didn't score a single point the first time those two teams played, with a couple of baskets. And St. James sort of set the tone, as you said, once they started going inside. And Goretti just didn't have much of an answer for that. It was 48-33 after the third quarter, and then St. James kind of coasting from there. Mosley winds up with 17. Morgan McMahon still impressive as just a freshman, 16 points in that game. And I don't think that Nate Naylor, did he ever substitute until McMahon fouled out a minute into the fourth quarter? I think he had his starting five on the court the whole time to that juncture.
He was really concerned early about the fatigue because when they played St. Vincent Pilates the night before, they fell behind 18 points to start the game, and then it was supposed to be a very physical game. So he expected them to be tired, and kind of contributed the reason why they couldn't shoot so well from the outside and had to go to the inside was because they had no legs left.
Yeah, well, it looked that way. That's for sure. But St. James gets the win in the IPSL Championship. Congratulations to the Lady Saints, who have now won 2 in a row over Goretti after having lost 6 straight. They've now won 8 in a row overall entering this week. Bob, thanks for being here this time.
Thanks, man.
I'll be back in just a moment. Boys basketball is next. Kevin Dunleavy joins me for that in just a moment.
At Hamilton Nissan, we know you've got places to go, so let's travel together. The Nissan Rogue, plenty of room for you, and plenty of room for him. With nearly 40 cubic feet of cargo space, everyone will be using the Rogue for everything, all the time. And on occasion, you'll find an evening for yourselves, and the Nissan Rogue will be right there with you. Hamilton Nissan, let's travel together. Come see us on the Dual Highway.
Antietam Media Services has been covering local events in our community for over 4 decades. Parades, baseball games, showcase of marching bands, and Tuesday, we're headed to North Hagerstown to cover boys basketball action live on Antietam Broadband.
The second chapter of this season's city rivalry waits to be written when the South Hagerstown Rebels visit Hub Arena to battle North Hagerstown. Watch the story unfold live this Tuesday by using our WCL On The Go app on your mobile device, online at myectv.net or on channel 6 and 806. Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue with boys basketball now. Joining me is Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy. Welcome back to the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Wes.
Well, we saw a couple of excellent basketball games recently. Last Thursday, Williamsport hosting Clear Spring, and Williamsport had really gotten the best of Clear Spring most recently. Actually, over the last 9 games coming into that one, Williamsport had won 8 of them. But this one, it just seemed from the very beginning, at least to me, that Clear Spring was intent on coming away with a victory. Their desire was undeniable.
And Ryan, that's the first thing Ryan Grable said to me, the coach of Williamsport, was Jared Lasich diving for a loose ball and kind of setting the tone of the entire game. Clear Spring doesn't get a chance to play many real good teams like Williamsport, and they had lost badly the couple of times they had played good teams. So they were just so fired up and ready to play, and Williamsport was a little on their heels.
Yeah, what do you make of that strength of schedule for Clear Spring and what that win means? Mike Myers said to you afterwards, it's not a statement win, but to me, it's a signature win.
Yeah, they have a lot of talent for a school their size. So they've got this schedule that they're playing a lot of teams that they traditionally are on equal ground with. This year they're blowing away so many of these teams that are of the same size or even bigger schools. But they could be playing a schedule of really good, much bigger schools this year and really be able to compete. And they'd probably be a better team if that was the case. They'd, be able to get tested more often.
And Jarrett Lozich said afterwards that the way that game started was the key ultimately to victory. It wound up being a 1-point Clear Spring win, 58-57, as Williamsport did everything it could at the end to make it as close as possible and to try to extend the game. But we talk a lot about Clear Spring and what the Blazers did right. What did Williamsport not do right in order to come away with the win?
It became a game where they were playing catch-up the entire way and just never got it under control. And Clear Spring Clear Spring got a great game from Connor Michael, and Williamsport didn't have anybody inside that could really deal with him. Michael is really versatile. He's able to do a lot of things in the low post. And that
was a complete 180 from the first time those
True.
two teams met where he didn't score at all.
Yeah, and I think he's he's kind of seen his senior year not go as expected. The transition too for him this year, Tavon Davis is another big playing with him. Last year, a lot of the big stuff, when they go low to the low post, he was the focus, and now he's had to share that focus a little bit. So there's probably an adjustment there. It looked like they figured it out on Thursday.
Yeah, total team effort for the Clear Spring victory, and that's 6 in a row for them now. And every game that they have remaining is against a region opponent.
Yeah.
So they are all big for Clear Spring down the line. And for Williamsport, just going to have to regroup after that one. Certainly the season's not over because of that loss, but that's one that both teams really wanted. But again, Clear Spring really bringing it and getting it in the end. Speaking of two teams wanting it, IPSL championship on Sunday, St. James at St. Maria Goretti. Chapter 2 for this season, and it may be the final chapter between those two teams. Unfortunately, a lot of animosity afterwards, but leading up to that, a 68-64 Goretti win in a game that was ultra entertaining. There's just everything you would want from a basketball standpoint. I mean, excitement personified in every single way, from dunks to three-point field goals to everything that makes basketball great.
It was tremendous, and the thing that makes it so good is both teams have such a rabid fan base, especially when they play each other, and the noise factor, everything is amplified. The adrenaline's up, and players do things sometimes you never see them do in other games.
St. James got off to such a great start in the game, up by 7 points, and then you look at the scoreboard early in the second quarter, and now Goretti's up by 9, a 16-point swing in a short period of time, and that's when things really amped up in that second quarter. In that period, St. James 3 dunks, St. Maria Goretti 1, and that was just a precursor of things to come. But I think a guy who kind of got lost in all of this because he's not necessarily a showman. He's not a guy who does things spectacularly. He just does them really well. Abdou Simbila, who wound up being the second leading scorer and really had one of the key baskets of the game late for Goretti, but he was a presence throughout.
You're right. He just quietly does his stuff on offense, and he's really the strides he's taken in just this couple of months that I've seen him play. Pretty amazing, especially on the offensive end. He's really learning the game quickly, and maybe not being brought up in America, he doesn't have the feel for making the dramatic play, the slam dunks and stuff. He probably could dunk a lot if he wanted to, but he's just efficient. He wants to get the ball in the basket. That's all he cares about.
That little half hook he has from close in, I mean, you can't stop it. Yeah. And then Presmek Golek, I thought, played very well too. He's unflappable. The guy's expression never changes. As much as that atmosphere got crazy in there, you never saw his face change, and he was very solid throughout. And then at the end, Josh Mack and Rashawn Edwards. Mack didn't have a single point in the game, hit 2 huge free throws, and then it was Edwards who made 2 free throws late, also had the assist to Simbila, which gave Goretti the lead that allowed them then to knock down the free throws late. Kalen Baker, have to mention him for St. James. His three-point work was off the charts on Sunday. I mean, he just didn't miss from the beginning of that game. And again, just a spectacular basketball game. Maybe not quite as good as last year's IPSL championship, but at the same time, it was darn close. But Coach Preet, not too happy afterwards, was hoping that maybe that game could be rescheduled because St. James has a lot going on. They had played Oak Hill Academy. St. James Invitational begins on Thursday, but it was a date that was agreed to before the season started. So in all fairness, that's when it was supposed to be played. And as you said to me before we even taped today, and it's true, if Goretti were to change that date, then it wouldn't have been beneficial to them. Difficult thing for St. James, missing 2 starters, Bryce Golden and Anthony Torelli both out, who could have potentially swung the balance for them.
It would have definitely have given them the advantage if they had moved the date. And there's really no reason Goretti should relent to do that when it's been decided, like David Blankstone said, their athletic director. It was decided back in May.
And it's funny that you say that because these are 2 teams that played in the very first St. James Invitational Tournament in 1974 with Goretti winning 63-54, and now all these years later they just can't seem to get along. Thanks for being here this week, Kevin.
Thank you, Wes.
A lot of great basketball still ahead, including the St. James Invitational starting on Thursday. Next Tuesday, Antietam Broadband, Antietam Media Services will have live high school basketball here on WCL-TV. It's Chapter 2 of North-South, this time from North Hagerstown. We'll be on the air at 6:45. That is next Tuesday here on WCL. When I come back, I'm going outside with Nick Kidwell. It's Nick, Cantaloupes, and me. What could go wrong? We'll be back after this.
Antietam Broadband's Flight Gigabit service is ultra-high-speed internet delivered by a direct fiber connection. We are one of the few communities in the country to have it. But what does it mean? It means businesses will want to move here, which means more jobs, better jobs. It means access to world-class infrastructure for healthcare, education, and nonprofits. It means enhanced social and economic well-being. That's why it won the 2017 Leading Edge Award from the Chamber of Commerce. Flight Gigabit from Antietam Broadband, changing how people connect.
So we promised you this earlier, and we're going to deliver. Really appreciate you doing this, Nick, first of all. I'd like to do some other goofy things on the show, but I'm always afraid that I'm going to get somebody hurt. So please, whatever you do, don't get hurt, because no coach will ever send an athlete back again. So I figured with the shot put, we'd be okay. I did a little, I did a little research on the shot put, and I see that back in the Middle Ages, they were actually throwing cannonballs.
Yeah.
There were soldiers throwing cannonballs. So we're not getting that crazy, but we do have right here the cantaloupe. I was looking for some big grapefruits, but apparently they're out of season. So we're going with the cantaloupe. So I'm going to let you do your thing, and we're going to get a measurement here. We got 2 cantaloupes, so we'll do this twice, and we'll see how far you can throw this. Try not to hit the vehicles down here if you can help it. I don't know. I'm going to go down there. If I need to deflect it, then I'll do what I can. But, hey, we'll just find out what happens. All right. Here we go. Like right there at that spot. Yeah. This is a little less than official.
Yeah. All right, 25. So here's 50, right?
That's 50 right there.
All right.
Okay, right here.
Okay, come on up this way. You said you don't like to run.
Yeah.
Let's just get it.
We'll say about 80 feet 3 inches on the first throw.
Okay, got it?
Yep. That's pretty. Jim, are you ready?
I'm ready, rolling.
All right, Nick. Oh!
Oh!
It's pretty clear where this one landed. So let's actually just take it from here to there, right?
Yep.
Where is that 9.3?
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I'll say this much. Under less than ideal conditions here, I think you're throwing into a headwind first and foremost. 83 on the first one, 71 on the second one, but we've got a gusty wind here, so we'll factor that in. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. That was a lot of fun.
That was cool.
I think we should do this every show. See what happens, each and every week. That's Nick Kidwell. Best of luck coming up this Saturday.
Thank you.
And then again, coming up at States. Really appreciate you doing this. That will do it for this week's show. Next week on the show, we'll have show and tell from 1A 2A West Regionals. Plus, we've got basketball and maybe even a little wrestling next week, too. Not really sure what's in store right now. I've got Cantaloupe to clean up. Until next time, I will see you. Thanks for watching this time. See you then on the inside.